That being said, let's move ahead and call to order the official portion of our regional council meeting. Let's, at this point, Alicia, what can we do about attendance? Are you?
I'm ready.
Alicia, you're muted.
Sorry. That I was muted by a moderator. Okay. So, Kay Bushman. You guys hear me?
I can hear you. I do not hear a response from Kay Bushman.
Okay. Mona Carbone. Here. Jessica Gaines. Here. Scott Lamphere.
Here.
I just hope someone cheers for me like that when they say my name.
Dan Marsh.
Here.
Tom Sampson.
Here.
Maggie Thompson.
Here.
Paul Weaver.
Here.
Thank you. Bonnie Van Housen. I believe she's not here. Chris Baker. Dorothy Button.
Here.
Okay. Mickey Fornes.
Here.
Ed Fredrickson.
Here.
Bobby Kuhn. Carrie Parr.
Here.
Brad Petrozewski. Todd Reisner.
Here.
Tim Richardson.
Here.
Dr. Walters.
I was waiting for the cheers, but I'm here.
Yay!
Priscilla Baines.
I'm here.
Steve Cobb.
Here.
Doug Conroe.
Here.
Jen Gutman.
Here.
Ron Hassan. Dan Imfeld.
Here.
Bill Johnston.
Here.
Laura Logan.
Here.
Kevin Peebles.
Here.
Brian Wilcox.
Here.
George Philgrove. Did he get back on? No, doesn't look like it. Donna Kane.
I do not see him in here.
Dr. Lamoth. Glad I saw
He
Dr.
still shows
Lamoth
on the list.
I know he's on because he was texting me, so he's on the phone. He's probably just on mute somehow.
He's waving.
Oh, he's waving? Okay. Hello. Ed Major. Don Trepaz.
Present and accounted for.
Yay!
Is there any other guests on the phone that I didn't get? I see John Griffith, so I'll mark him down.
John Griffith's
And
here.
I think, okay.
Yeah,
think
I was
that
muted.
should-
My apologies.
No worries. All right, Tom, I am done with roll call.
All right, and from that list of names, I believe we have a quorum. So we will move ahead. And I am, so we'll move ahead to the minutes from the last meeting. If there's any discussion, corrections, or a motion to accept them.
So Tom, probably the best thing is to ask people to raise their hand and then we'll make sure they're unmuted if they want to do the motion. If they
Okay.
can't unmute themselves.
All right.
Lanfear, motion to accept.
Thank you,
Motion to
Scott.
second, Bill Johnston.
Scott Lanfear made a motion. Bill Johnston seconded to accept the minutes. All those in favor, raise your hand. Which I can only see 6 of you plus
9.
myself.
Best to ask if anybody opposes, if they could verbally tell us.
Correct. All right, that's a good suggestion. So anybody opposed, please verbalize that. Or you could just get up and walk out of the room like Steve Cobb did. All right, hearing none, we'll say that the minutes from the previous meeting are passed. We'll ask Alicia to present the treasurer's report to us. Oh, very nice.
Oh, nice screen
So
share.
it's
Yeah, I wasn't sure
Thank you.
you'd be able to do that. Very nice.
basically, May said the 2 yellows are the things that have changed since last time. So some bank fees, and then we did get a check for the 4th quarter.
Right.
This is Dan Infeld. I'll make a motion that we accept.
Motion by Dan Imfeld. Is there a second?
Tim Richardson, second.
Thank you, Tim. All those in favor, wave. I guess you can do a wave on through the program too, but if you are opposed,
Yeah, you
please
can click
verbalize
raise
that.
hand.
Yep. Good job, Dr. Walters. Very well. The treasurer's report is accepted. Enforcement notifications. I have 4 of them. We have Thomas Dean from Saratoga Springs, New York, whose certification was revoked effective July 6th, 2020, and assessed a civil penalty of $2,000, violations of Part 800, 16A7, and 13 and 14. Francis Feely from Cohocton, New York, voluntarily surrendered effective, that might say 2/6/20, for violations of Part 800, 15B1 and 16A 9 and 11. Christina Cosentino, Bethpage, New York, voluntarily surrendered 7/7/20. Violations of Part 800, 15B1 and 16A2 and 3. And finally, Christopher Chung, St. Albans, New York, suspended for 1 year running from March 31st, 2019 to March 31st, 2020. May enroll in a full recertification course testing after March 31st, 2020. Assessed a civil penalty of $500. The civil penalty is suspended pending 2 years probation without violation effective 6/22/20. For violations of 815A1 and 2 and 816A1, 2, and 9. We will move ahead with old business. The only item that I have is bylaws review, and I will turn the floor over to Mickey Fornes for anything that she would like to say.
several months ago now, we did send out a copy of the bylaws with the proposed revisions. The only one thing that we did not really complete of all of those things was about the REMAC. And I did send out, when we sent that out, I sent out a letter that we got from the deputy director of the department about, the question was, is the REMAC really a subcommittee of the council? And his response, while a little distorted, essentially said that when these rules were passed, that they assumed that the councils would act the same as the SWREMSCO, with the CMAC is a subcommittee of the SWREMSCO. But that doesn't say that in Article 30, exactly that. But his comment was, you know, if the there's no other funding mechanisms in place for the REMAC unless they get them from the councils as a subcommittee. So if they don't serve as a subcommittee of the councils, we really can't provide them with any financial resources. So we're kind of, it's kind of a catch-22 whether we want to take them out as a subcommittee and just say they're not. But we did have a conference with Dr. O'Brien way back in March about leadership, and I sat in on this group in place for Tom Sampson. And one of the things that Dr. O'Brien said was they may in the future be looking for some reimbursement or some stipend for the REMAC chair. So if they want some money from us to stipend for the REMAC chair, they have to be a subcommittee of our council. So it's kind of a mess, and I'm not sure. I sent out asking for comments, and I got some very nice comments back. It says it all looks good to me, but nobody gave me how they wanted to resolve this issue one way or the other. The rest of it is straightforward. Some operating stuff that we talked about a financial review, not an audit, how we exactly appoint members back, and those kinds of things. Some of them were spelling errors and all, which is, you know, really not so big. But this is the one that's not resolved. So I would ask, and for any discussion, we need to get this fixed. We need to get these bylaws amended and be done with this. So I open it up. I want some input. So how do you want to handle this? You know, Dr. Walters, maybe you'd like to start the ball.
You know, Mickey, I was trying to pull up the emails while you were talking because honestly, it was back in February before COVID, and I'm not sure I really remember anything from that time period.
Yeah, I don't remember breakfast most days.
Yeah, I think the deputy director's letter was a typical bureaucratic answer where he kind of said this or this and straddled both sides and then said, I kind of think this, but he kind of like played both sides of the fence.
I agree.
So I have to go back and I have to look at it because I know I raised the issue, and I think for us it's a little bit unique. And my only concern is that we have a REMAC being a subcommittee then of 3 regional councils.
Correct.
And I'm just not sure how that works, right? You can't have the relationship of a CMAC SWREMSCO where, you know, usually the CMAC, anything that gets approved by the CMAC as a seconded motion goes to the SWREMSCO for final approval. Well, we don't operate that way in our REMAC. And I'm not sure that we can, because what happens if, for example, the REMAC approves something and then we have to have all 3 regional councils vote on it? I mean, what if Big Lakes doesn't have a meeting for 6 months, which has happened in the past? Then what happens? We can't implement something? We can't move forward? That's my only concern. It has nothing to do with the relationship of the SWREMSCO to the REMAC or whose authority or anything like that. It's just that type of relationship that concerns me a little bit, because we have, how can you have a committee that's a subcommittee of 3 different regional councils? I'm trying to work it out in my head, and I don't know. I'm open to suggestions though.
Yeah, and you know, and we are unique. We are the only area that we have one REMAC for 3 councils. So I'm not sure what we need to do with this. You know, it clearly says that the REMAC makes medical decisions. We don't yay or nay them, they make the medical decisions, but it would be in reference to, I don't know, whether everybody had to wear a hat on a call. If you said that, that should come back to the council because it's really not medical in nature. So I asked the group, how do we want to deal with this?
Yeah, and the one thing I'll say, and then before we just, I would say that if, you know, the deputy director's position was that, well, these were all written at the same time as the CMAC to SEMSCO relationship, which is clearly outlined, and so that's what you're supposed to follow with the REMAC and the REMSCO. And my counter argument would be, well, if they were written at the same time and the people that wrote them didn't write it the exact same way, then they probably didn't intend it to be the exact same way. But I don't know that makes a difference one way or the other. I just didn't find that letter from him very useful.
Exactly, and I agree with you there. I can only say what was in it when we asked for clarification. And if you look at F, what Alicia has up on the screen, this was my, I guess, attempt to straddle the fence is the same as the deputy director. And it says, consider the medical advisory committee will serve as an advisory committee, so you're still going to be a committee on medical issues as outlined in Article 30. And then we would just list it there with that as number F and say that's what it is and just delete it up above. So you're still an advisory committee to our council and leave it that way. That was the only way I could make any sense out of it. So I give that back to the committee or the group to make a decision on.
Further discussion?
Doug here. Yeah,
Yes,
Doug
Doug.
here. I don't think it hurts to have it be a committee. You know, I totally agree with you, Mickey. Going back, that it's medical. It's primary in medical decisions. It's not council does not and should not review medical decisions. Right. There have been times when they've strayed from medical, and then that's appropriate for council. That's kind of few and far between of recent. I'm remembering way back when, I believe we used to have a $5,000 stipend to them annually, ages ago. Yep. So not that I'm suggesting that be reinstituted, but I think leaving them on as you have suggested there as an advisory committee kind of bridges that gap so that protects both ends going forward.
Dr. Walters, how does is that? Are you comfortable with that since you raised the question? And that way, if there's any changes in Article 30, we've dealt with it follows Article 30.
Yeah, I think, Doug, I think you raised my only concern is that practically speaking, I guess medical issues are usually decided by the REMAC and the physicians, which I think is appropriate. As a physician, I think I always have a little bit of concern if we have a body that is above that group that can veto them. And I think, Doug, you said that, you know, that hasn't been an issue. And practically speaking, I don't think that has been an issue as long as I've been involved in the REMAC. You know, I think that and I think that, you know, Dr. Clemency has said and Dr. O'Brien has said also, and I think, you know, most of the people on the REMAC now, that the REMAC should deal with the medical standards and the medical standard of care. Operational issues, right? Those should be, you know, delegated to the individual agencies or the REMSCO where appropriate, or the counties or whatever it is for those operational things. So that's my only concern. I think that, you know, maybe my concern is unfounded because we haven't had any issues like that. But I just, you know, once you have these bylaws, obviously you have to follow them, and I try to look at potential things down the road. From the standpoint of funding and things, I mean, you know, I as a former REMAC chair, I do think it's a lot of work, and I don't think a small stipend, you know, provided would be unreasonable for that person. I think there's a lot of things that people don't understand, the day-to-day issues that get brought to the REMAC chair that they deal with between meetings and things, from all 8 counties of Western New York in our instance. So if that's a way to get them funding, I'm not necessarily opposed to it, but I just wanted to raise the discussion. And I think that if everybody, agrees in doing the right thing, it'll never be an issue, and Doug, like you said, and I think that if it does, then we have to, visit it at that time. I just don't get a little fuzzy, like I said, of the other regions, and nothing against the other regions, but I think I'll say it, I think we're the highest functioning, region in our REMAC. I think that our PPAs are done on time. They're done with 100% compliance. I think we get everybody on board. I think we have a lot of involvement. And I don't know that happens consistently to the same level across the other regions. And so that was my issue, not with our regional council per se.
Okay. So what do we do with the bylaws? And one more thing I just wanted to put out there. I reviewed the REMAC bylaws. In fact, in the REMAC bylaws, it does say that they are a subcommittee of the regional councils. Just for information.
I guess I just
tried to look at it from everybody's perspective.
Yeah, I guess Don's on the line. From a DOH perspective, Don, do you have any other, insight?
No, I mean, I think that, in all fairness to, the deputy director's response, I think the issue at hand is exactly what Mickey pointed out. This is a unique situation in which you have one REMAC for 3 regional councils. Mm-hmm. And I understand his response, certainly from when it speaks to, funding streams and the ability to utilize public funds and those types of things that are, designed for the REMSCOs and that type of stuff. So I can definitely, understand that perspective. But unique situations also need unique solutions, right? So, is it some instance where you have the ability to identify them as, and I'm just snowballing here, this is not an official, directive by any reach of the means, but, is it a situation where, the 3 regional councils identify them as a subcommittee, and then subsequently, if a regional council adopts, if there's something that needs to adopt and another one doesn't, it's valid in that regional council's territory. Obviously that would have to be scripted well in those circumstances. And I think you're headed down the right road for what it sounds like. I think the challenge becomes, as long as everybody gets along and everybody's doing what they expect to be doing, just like you said, Dr. Walters, then you're good. The challenge becomes REMAC and the REMSCOs are not playing nice together. I think that we have seen it a bit, and certainly in our time. I know that we've definitely seen that in more significance in other areas of the state. But again, those were areas where it was, a 1-for-1 kind of situation. So that would be.
So I guess, Mickey, I think that draft that you had up there was putting it down, was it letter F or something, and deleting it from number 7 and listing it as outlined in Article 30. I guess in that regard, I wouldn't have any issue with that. I think that goes in line with what you're saying and what Doug was saying as well. And I think that I could support that.
Okay, so then what, and this was, like I said, I looked in 10 different directions trying to figure out how best to make it work for everyone. And so what F would actually say is the MAC, the Regional Medical Advisory Committee, will serve as an advisory committee on medical issues as outlined in Article 30. And we're just going to leave it at that. And then up at the top, I think it's already gone, where it says number 7, the Medical Advisory Committee, it would be removed from there. That would be renumbered, and that's how our bylaws would stand.
Other discussion or questions for the subcommittee, the bylaws committee?
This is Dan Info. I guess I would make a motion that we accept the bylaws committee's changes and we go with that. And if we need to make more changes, we'll adjust them as we see fit in the future. I would ask, though, that the REMAX bylaws be shared with everyone. I'm not sure. I've looked at those in a while.
Dan, I think you can go on to, I'm sorry, there's a motion on the table.
I think you're right. I just haven't been out on their website.
Yeah, if you go to their website, that's where I found them.
This is Todd Reisner.
And I do
I'll
think
second that motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept the bylaws as they have been presented to us. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, I just want to say to pass bylaws, this is a 2/3 vote. So when you ask if anybody is opposed, we need to make sure that not how many are opposed, so that we pass it with that 2/3 majority.
Thank you.
Before we vote,
Yes, Todd.
I'd like to echo the good Dr. Walter's point about funding of the REMAC chair. It's very difficult to get someone to volunteer for that post, and we as a body should really consider at least starting a discussion of how this SWREMSCO can help provide a stipend for that job.
And Todd, like I said, at the meeting that I attended in Todd's absence in March, with this COVID thing just starting off, the meeting obviously got skewed in another direction. But I think that was something he was going to bring back and have some more discussion about. And when he does bring it back, we can certainly say we are interested in providing some financial support without necessarily getting into a number until we see what that may be. I agree.
And I think, Todd, to your point, I think that carries a little bit more weight when it comes from a regional council who says, yes, we endorse and support this, as opposed to the current REMAC chair saying that. So I think that's an important statement that we can bring up in the next REMAC meeting as well, we feel that that's important and that we support that without committing to a certain number, obviously.
So I think what we need to do is we need to pass the bylaws, and then we can put a motion on the table to ask Todd as our representative, or you, Dr. Walters, as our medical representative, to bring that to the REMAC meeting for discussion, put it on the table for them. So let's pass the bylaws first and go to the financial consideration second.
Any further comments on the motion that is on the floor? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote because it does need to be 2/3 to make sure that there is no chance of a question. I've asked Alicia if she would conduct a roll call vote so that we can have an exact number. So Alicia, if you would do that now, please.
All right. Mona Carbone.
Aye.
I'm sorry, quick question. Do I ask for the people who aren't here? That might be a stupid question. No? Okay. Jessica Gaines.
Aye.
Scott Lampier.
Aye.
Dan Marsh.
Yes.
Tom Sampson.
Yes.
Maggie Thompson.
Yes.
Paul Weaver.
Aye.
Dorothy Button.
Yes.
Mickey Fornes.
Yes.
Ed Fredrickson.
Yes.
Carrie Carr.
Aye.
Todd Reisner.
Yes.
Tim Richardson.
Aye.
Dr. Walters.
Yes.
Priscilla Bailey.
Yes.
Steve
Alicia, you look like you're muted all of a sudden.
I said Steve,
Yes.
Doug Con,
Yes.
Jen Gut,
Yes.
Dan Info,
Yes.
Bill Johnson,
Yes.
Laura Logan,
Yes.
Kevin Peebles,
Yes.
and Brian Wilcox.
Yes.
So all ayes.
Very good. Thank you. The bylaws are approved. Let me extend our thanks to the members of the committee for your work on the bylaws and to Mickey for chairing that effort. Is there any other old business that we need to take up?
Just with this bylaws, can we get that to the website as soon as possible?
Absolutely. I believe the version I have, I'll confer with Mickey tomorrow to make sure it's the most recent, and we can get that uploaded right away, and we could get it posted.
Very good. Thank you.
Any other old business? Hearing none, we will move on to new business. Any new business that someone would like to bring up? In light of the discussion from about 5 minutes ago, is there any other new business that someone would like to bring up?
Hey, Tom.
Well, I think maybe we should talk about supporting the REMAC chair financially in the future. I don't know how anybody else feels about that, Todd.
Is that a motion, Brian?
I
Yes,
fully support that.
I'll make a motion.
Yes, I will rephrase that in the form of a motion.
Doc, can you let me make a motion and see if you like it?
Sure, go ahead, Dan.
I would make a motion that we form a 3-person subcommittee to review the topic of a stipend support for the REMAC chair, and that we empower that committee to do some research around the state to see if that's done anywhere, and also to talk to the other 2 councils to see their opinions before we go on record committing ourselves.
Is there a second for Dan's motion?
It's Mickey. I'll second that.
All right, there is a motion on the floor. Is there discussion on the motion?
I could just give a little color behind this push. When you go to these REMAC meetings and the present chairs are begging, pleading with another physician to take on the added responsibility to add this REMAC piece to their plate, that's a pretty heavy lift. And we've been very fortunate in the past that we've had physicians willing to step up to the plate and carry this mantle. So adding a little sweetener to that pot is a good idea.
This is Dan. I don't disagree. I just am very concerned about jumping in without considering the other REMACs. And I don't like precedents. So if there's somebody else, someplace else that's supporting it, I think it's an easier sell to the other regional councils.
Dan, I certainly can appreciate your measured approach to this, and I certainly don't oppose the development of TAG to investigate this and bring back good information to this body. I think that's a sound approach.
Hey, Tom.
Don?
I just want to to add, because one of your fellow regional councils to your east went through this recently as of last year. I would encourage you. I think that you guys are, certainly spot on with what you're attempting to accomplish. I totally echo Todd's situation relative to the REMAC chair and the struggles that they have and the workload. But additionally, for Dan's side of the house, I believe there were some challenges related to providing, again, that funding stream to the quote unquote REMAC chair. My understanding was that they moved into more of a regional medical director job description type of situation. And that was in consultation with some of the other regional councils. So I would encourage you to look at that and then vet any sort of financial stipend distribution with our administration chief, Lynn, so that you just make sure that everybody's on par, so it doesn't make its way all the way down the road and then all of a sudden get derailed. So I think you guys are spot on with what you're doing. I'm just throwing it out there as some history from to your east there a little bit ago.
And I think,
Thank
Don, I think there's actually a few REMACs that have a regional medical director position or job description, if I'm not mistaken. MilREMS, I think, being one, but you would probably know better.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure if MilREMS actually has that specifically as part of it, but I think so. I know. And I, council, but there was definitely one in Central New York or Hudson Valley region that they used a lot of information from relative to that job description type thing. There's something relative to the funding based on the Article 30 piece of it being a body, and it's that reduces the indemnification or something along those lines. So that was brought up by Lynn last year, and I know there was discussion with the regional council. So if you wanted to touch base with Donnie Duvall or any of those folks to the east over at the Southern Tier, I know that they had gone through that for sure. I don't know exactly how it all worked out, other than it's there and it's created. I just don't, know the exact steps that they had to do to get to that.
Other discussion?
Yeah, Doug here. Not that I always abide by budget, but we need to take a look at our budget and see what we've got in our program plan and what the central office will allow for expenditures. So I think that this group, the suggestion that Dan has is excellent, and that's got to be a consideration. We've got to work that through just because of the strings that come attached on the funding.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. There's not much that gets approved lately. You need documentation upon documentation, and Lynn holds the purse strings pretty tight. So she may have sent something out to us in the past about what is allowed and not allowed. I'll look for that and see if I can find it. I mean, there's always a way if you can twist it, but we'll have to look into that more.
Well, the other,
and I think that goes to Dan's point about if we look at and Don's, if this precedent has already been done in other regions and they've gone through this, then we're not reinventing the wheel and we follow the same suit. We don't have to necessarily commit the same amount of funds or anything, but at least the precedent is there in some manner or form.
Yeah, my understanding is they don't use REMAC funds. They use other funds, fundraising or other things. Like the University of Rochester actually covers, is what I was told, but I can definitely look more into it.
Yeah.
Dan Infeld?
Yeah, my other concern too is, and this goes back to my REMS days when the REMS board was sued by the state. I don't want to put this person in a position to where instead of being a volunteer, they're now an employee or they're compensated, which would then impact their liability. So I think it needs to be thoroughly researched, and that's why I made my motion. I'm not against it. I just don't want to do something quickly and not have all our bases covered.
Further discussion? Very well. We'll call for a vote on the motion that Dan Infeld has made regarding the formation of a 3-person committee to research and bring back recommendations regarding stipend support for the REMAC chair.
I second
Dan,
it.
is that?
Mhm.
No, we have a second already. Dan, is that your motion?
That's correct.
Very well. All those in favor, please wave. All those opposed, please verbalize. Hearing none, the motion is passed. Now then.
This is Dan.
Yes, Dan.
I would volunteer to serve on that.
Thank you.
And I'd also volunteer Dr. Walters to serve on that. And then we need a 3rd person.
I was with Dan for the first sentence, but then I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'll be happy.
If we consider that Dan is from Chautauqua County and Dr. Walters represents Cattaraugus County, it would be good to have an Allegheny County representative to keep things balanced. Is there someone from Allegheny County that is willing to serve before someone is appointed?
Scott lives here. I'll help out.
Very well. Thank you, Scott. You were going to get appointed anyways, so. Thank you. The 3 of you can meet and discuss by whatever means you would like to. And we'll look forward to hearing back from you. Thank you for mostly volunteering. Any other new business?
Mr. Chairman, Scott Lansford.
Yes.
Just want to, Frank Homer, who's been a critical care in our county for a number of years, is undergoing a major surgery today. His cancer is back, and he was going to undergo an 8 to 12-hour surgery today. We believe he's still in surgery at this time, so everyone's thoughts and prayers for him and his family.
Absolutely. All right, if there's no other new business, let's have take a little time to discuss this format as we discussed last month's format and see what your thoughts are on how the Blue Jeans app has worked and how we feel about that as a viable alternative moving forward if this social distancing is needed.
Paul Weaver.
Yes, Paul.
I am not in favor of this. I think last month's meeting went much better. Twice I was up on my laptop, my screen went blank, and I lost all access to all meeting controls. I logged back out, logged back in, and eventually finally called back in on my cell phone. But I don't find this to be effective. I think that using proper social distancing in the video teleconferencing was much easier, much smoother.
Very good. Thank you. Others?
If Donna can figure out how to get me a beef on wick, I like it.
You're close enough you can walk and get one of your own. Don Trepaz, are
Tom,
you?
if you would like, we can send out a survey if you want, so people don't have to feel uncomfortable talking, voicing their opinion.
Right. Don, are you still on?
Yes, I am. No, I think I think it works out. I mean, certainly, there was some push from the department relative to having the ability for video conferencing. Hybrid situations are, as we call them, we're starting to call them in the school type of world now, certainly acceptable as well. I mean, I think that there's going to be a combination of both that'll be needed across, the realm, but almost everything, is moving toward the video conferencing network. I will agree with Mr. Weaver. I had a significant challenge for whatever reason on my computer. I could not get the screen to work. I'm on my cell phone now, and I can get the screen to work. I can see the images and so forth via the cell phone. I'm not really sure what the computer was. I did the restart thing a couple times as well. So that could particularly just be the program. I'm not very familiar with the Blue Jeans program as we use WebEx and Zoom and stuff like that for our other stuff. So, but I think that, it'll get easier as it goes. I mean, we see that with all the different WebEx type stuff that we do. It's always a challenge at first, and, kudos to Donna and Alicia for figuring out how to do the whole mute and unmute and mute the people as there was the back feedback and all that type of stuff. That's usually the hardest challenge of these types of things. So it almost becomes second nature, and then, you get to necessarily put the appropriate clothes on when it comes time for a meeting. So, or you fill your drink with holy water, as you may have, Mr. Sampson. So, no, I think it was kudos to everybody for certainly jumping on board with that.
I'll add my 2 cents into this. I've done at least over 100 video conferences in different formats, and I think there's no perfect world. I think this went very well, and the BlueJean app is appropriate for this setting. And thank you, Donna, for setting that up. And Alicia for...
Alicia does all the work. I just take all the credit. No, and I have to thank all of you because it's definitely a challenge. And Tom, you did a fantastic job. I know Monday we kind of had our little test run, and we truly appreciate everybody allowing us to mute and unmute you, because Alicia and I participated on some calls where we're just muted, and I don't think that's right or fair. So we want to give you the opportunity to speak, but we also don't want people to be discouraged participating because dogs are barking or kids are playing in the background, because a lot of times people don't even realize, Alicia, no, I'm kidding, that the dog are barking in the background. So again, I just want to thank everybody.
It was my dog, I'm sorry.
I knew. So I want to thank everybody for allowing us to try different things, and we're really okay with any of it. I do know people like to see each other, and so if we have to do a hybrid once in a while or do one of these once in a while, we're willing to do whatever you guys want to do. So we'll send out a survey so we can kind of get a better grasp of what people want, if that's okay with you, Tom.
Yeah, that would be much appreciated. Please, you have to be honest when. Please respond to the survey first off, and then be honest. Obviously, these are times that call for great flexibility and creative problem solving. So we will continue to do that. And thank you for.
You must need to mute somebody.
Yep, get that mute button.
I believe Dr. Walters was trying to speak at one point. Dr. Walters?
Get that mute button.
That was before. That was not me with that feedback, I don't think. But no, I was just going to say, I think there's always some technology challenges, and first time for a lot of us using BlueJeans. I think we can work through some of that in the future, perhaps. I agree with what Paul's saying. There's definitely no substitute for that face-to-face interaction when you're all sitting in the same room, and I think that there's still benefit to that. However, I will say, like most of you, I've been on way more video calls and conference calls than I care to have been on in the last 2 months. But the upside of that is that I've been able to make a lot more meetings because I've been able to do them either calling in while you're driving or while you're home, or you have a meeting back to back where you couldn't physically get from one to the other, and being able to, to do it in this type of format does allow for that. And so I wonder, if it does allow for some better participation in some instances, whether that's some hybrid format or whether it's utilizing this or half and half. I'm not really sure what the answer is, but I think that there are some benefits despite the technology issues.
Oh, certainly. And if we were in a situation in our December meeting where there was a large snowstorm forecast, rather than canceling the meeting, if we could slide over to this format and still hold the meeting, I think there's certainly, like you say, there's certainly benefits to this technology and having it available. Any other comments or new business? I will take the silence as your desire to adjourn. I will tell you that October 7th at 6:30 should be our next meeting, pending the results of the survey and the status of COVID-19 and directives from the state, we will decide how that meeting is held. Once again, I'll thank Donna and Alicia for hosting the meeting. Thank you all for your patience, and trust that you will enjoy the rest of your evening. Let's sign off.
Thank you, everybody, and good to see you all.
Good to see you as
Do we
well,
need a
Dr.
motion?
Lamont. Do we need a motion?
You look good, Tom.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Very well.
Brian Wilcox, second.
All those in favor?
Have a good night,
say
everyone.
Aye.
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 Good night. All right. Very well.
Take care, everybody.
Does everybody go with the motion?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Cheers.